Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of the Trans 101 series. Today I'm going to be talking about transgender children / young adults. I think there's a large misconception sometimes in the community and outside the community that people who transition are older. Well, that's not always the case. There's actually a different type of diagnosis for transgender children or people who are under 18. So in this video, I'm going to talk about transgender children. I'm going to talk about the diagnosis criteria for gender dysphoria in children, and I'm going to talk about treatment and how to also treat your child. So a lot of people say that, oh my god, there are so many more trans kids now that are transitioning. Listen, there have always been transgender children that have transitioned. The only difference and the reason why you think that there are more children now is because it is all over the media. There are so many different documentaries about it where they follow transgender children and transgender young adults and teens to explain and to show their life and to show that, hey, this has happened. But you need to understand that there are people who have transitioned when they were very, 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 very young. And it's not as not common as you think. There's a word there and I can't find it. The word is uncommon. Wow. All right. So a really, really big thing that happens, all right, is that some people who are very against kids transitioning or, you know, their parents letting them transition is, well, my kid identifies as a dog. I'm not gonna let him be a dog. Here's the thing. This is not the same thing. I can understand that you think that that's a phase because identifying as a dog is definitely a phase when you're a child. Gender identity is not a phase. It is not a phase. And it's not that the parents are letting them transition, it's that the child is showing so many different criteria for the diagnosis of gender dysphoria in children that it makes sense to let the child transition because that's what the child needs in order to be happy and in order to be okay. There's no such thing as a life-altering decision. Yes, it's life-altering, but it's not that they're gonna grow up and be adults and regret everything, all right? Now I'm gonna explain to you what I'm talking about and why I believe it is not a phase and why it is not a phase. It's not that I believe, it's fact, it's not a phase. Gender identity is not a phase. I will explain to you the criteria for diagnosis of gender dysphoria in children. For this diagnosis, there are 8 criteria, okay? The child needs to have 6 of those for more than 6 months. So it's just not a little kid being like, oh, I'm a boy now, and I wanna play with boys. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. This is a deeper level. This is identity. This is how they feel inside. And yes, you might not think that a child who is 5 years old can make a decision about how they feel. Trust me, they're not making this decision. This is how they feel, and they are being extremely courageous for expressing it and explaining it. And a lot of these kids have a lot of suicidal thoughts at such a young age because they feel like their body does not match how they feel inside, and they are not treated the way that they feel that they need to be treated. This is extremely sad, and if it means that the child is going to be happy if they transition and they have all of the criteria and everything works, then why not? Gender dysphoria in children is marked by an incongruence of their gender identity or expression with their assigned gender. If you don't know what that means, please watch video 1 where I explain what is transgender. Here are the 8 criteria of gender dysphoria in children. A strong desire or an insistence that one is of the other gender, a strong preference for wearing clothes of the opposite gender, a strong preference for cross-gender roles when playing fantasy play or make-believe play, a strong preference for toys and games that are stereotypically associated with the other gender, a strong preference in playmates of the other gender, a strong rejection of toys and games that are stereotypically attributed to their assigned gender, a strong dislike of one's sexual anatomy, a strong desire for the sex characteristics that match their gender identity. This condition is associated with clinically significant distress or impairment in school and social and other very important areas of functioning. So how do you know if your child is trans? Well, out of all of these things that I just talked about, just remember 3 main aspects that encompass all of it: insistence, persistence, and consistence. So once you look at those 3 things and you're like, wow, my kid really does insist that they are a different gender and they are very persistent about it, and it's been going on for over 6 months. So what do you do next? Well, if you think that your kid is trans, well, the best thing that you can do is to go see a gender specialist, especially for children or people under 18. There are different places that work with children and parents who are trans, like the kids are trans. In Philadelphia, there's the Mazzoni Center. In California, there is the Center for Excellence in Transgender Health, and I live in Montreal, so I will tell you that the one that I know in Montreal is at the Montreal Children's Hospital. There is a Center for Trans Kids. These are the best places to go because these doctors work with transgender children and transgender teens, and they know what to expect, and they know what the diagnosis is, and they know what the treatment is. They know how to talk to the parents and how to work with all of these situations that are happening. If you don't live in a big city and you don't have access to these services, then there are other things that you can do. But really seeking a therapist that is competent in transgender health is extremely important. Therapy is important, and it is mandatory for a lot of trans people, but not all therapists agree with the DSM, and which is a little bit ridiculous because it is literally the DSM. It is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. This is what they're using, and they're not agreeing with something that's inside. But what's important is to find a therapist that is very competent in what they're doing, and that can be hard sometimes, but there are some resources that I will put in the description below if you are curious or if you are actually looking for these types of resources in the description below. So why is a diagnosis even needed? Well, it's super important to have a diagnosis because then you get access to services. There are a lot of people who don't see being trans as a medical condition, and that is completely fine. But it now, currently in this world that we live in at this time, it being seen as a medical condition mean that we have access to services where a lot of insurance companies will pay for them and the Canadian government will pay for a part of your transition. So it's not ideal to have a diagnosis, but especially for transgender children, it is extremely important. And I think that having a diagnosis is a lot easier for some parents to understand that, oh my God, yes, my kid is trans, like a medical professional who has studied things like this, I feel validated in how I feel and how my child feels. I know that some parents are scared, and honestly, the best advice that I could ever give you is please just listen to your child. Just listen to them. Even if you don't agree with them, just respect them and just listen to what they have to say. Please keep an open communication. There are way too many young transgender kids who are killing themselves because their parents are not accepting and because they are not they don't have access to the services that they need, and it is so sad. And we just need parents who are accepting. And if you can't be accepting, just respect your child. They're not making any life-altering decisions right now that you don't agree with. They're just telling you how they feel. Please just respect them. For more information about trans kids and diagnosis and all of that fun stuff that I just talked about, please look at the links in the description below. I know this topic was a little bit heavy, and I hope that I was able to provide a little bit of insight on transgender children, especially the diagnosis of trans children. There are a lot of treatment options for trans kids, especially before they start puberty. There are a lot of doctors that will put them on hormone blockers, but this topic will be explored later on in a different episode, so please keep watching so that you're able to know more about transition at a younger age, especially the use of hormone blockers and why it is a godsend, honestly. Thank you for watching. I will see you for episode 4. Have a great day.